What's going on, everybody? Philip at Trade Genius. In this video, I wanted to discuss how things are going with the coronavirus statistically, because as you know, the S&P 500, the broader stock market indices, which is represented by these candles, has been in quite the sell-off. And, we've had a bear market rally, essentially, like we discussed in the last video. But largely this move, I think, is going to be dictated by what's going to happen with the virus. So the sooner the virus peaks, the sooner we get the economy back up and running, the sooner we can talk about markets being at a bottom. Because if this thing continues to go on, it doesn't matter how much money you're going to throw at it, there's not going to be a functioning economy to support the market going up. And that's going to put a downward pressure on everything, including Bitcoin. So that's how I'm going to piece this all together in a framework and show you guys what I look at as far as the virus statistics. It kind of gave us a gauge as to when we can expect, things to get back to normal. So I'm going to go over kind of the thought process on that in this video. So let's dive in.
Trade Genius.
Guys, really quickly, if you are interested in getting into the room with us, $299, that's 12 months. If you are interested at all about getting into trading, now's a good time. With some downtime, you can focus in on what's going on with the markets. We're talking about them every day in the room and taking advantage of when we have good probability setups coming our way. So $299, that's 12 months, gets you the ribbon indicator and the room access where we are in there pretty much all the time. All right, let's dive into the charts. So like I said, we've had a bear market rally, 20% up into basically this area now of somewhat resistance. We could see a move. I know we've talked about this 20% move up is at the risk of rolling over. We could see one last push into 2,700 because there's really a void of volume in here. And so just watch for that. But, broader picture, the risk is doing something like this back down. And then as such, Bitcoin would be dragged down with it unless Bitcoin can decouple. But right now, I don't see that happening. And that usually takes more time than what we've seen. This is just the first leg down, essentially a straight drop of 30% in the market's pretty unheard of. So in order for this to kind of resolve and find a bottom and get back to some kind of normalcy and functioning market, we need to really look at what the virus is doing. So what I like to do is go to worldometers.info/coronavirus. I will link that in the comment below. But essentially, it takes you to this page here, which we're going to concentrate on. So first couple of things, and some of you may already be familiar with this page, but you've got basically what the caseload looks like, total cases in the world and total deaths. Now, in charting, we call this a parabolic rise. And so that's basically what we're looking at. And what we want to see when they talk about flattening the curve, they're talking about this line starting to flatten. And that's going to give us, a better idea of when we could probably get back to business as usual, both in life and in the economy. Now, this table basically shows you what's going on with each country. Now, obviously, we're bigger. We've surpassed Italy. I will say, my personal opinion, China numbers are completely bogus. I think there's quite a lot of interesting data coming out of there that probably indicates a lot more deaths occurred than what we're seeing on this table. So I kind of, my opinion is these numbers are nowhere near reality of what went on. And considering how crazy China was in locking things down, that just seems like that doesn't add up. All right, so. But that being said, on paper, USA is leading. And what we're looking for is when these new cases are coming out, we want to see if the curve on that growth rate is lower than a factor of 1, meaning that is the prior day slowing down. So what I do is I take a look at, we go over to case graphs up here. And then what I like to do is this kind of breaks down the statistics. So as you can see, daily cases worldwide. Today is not done yet, so we'll have to see what the tally is there. But this is the one I focus in on, growth factor. If you have a growth factor of greater than 1, then it means that you're in the exponential growth phase. That's why you have those parabolic looking charts. If this starts to trend down under 1, we may be slowing down, possibly flattening, and we are essentially getting to a global peak. Now, one reading under 1 is not really going to do it. You kind of have to look at a steady trend under that. So we did get a dip under 1, we got a 0.9. But really what we want to see is something like down under here, okay? Now you can see this kind of gyrated as things got going, but now that we're starting to see the growth really starting to manifest itself globally, we're starting to see more consistent numbers. You notice they're not up and down, they're starting to be more consistent. So this is what I'm going to look for as far as telling me that the exponential rate of infection is starting to slow down, starting to flat. So that's going to give us a pretty good indication, I think, that you're going to possibly look at the peak happening if we start to see this slow down where we have a week of lower growth factor under 1. Then maybe we can start looking at we're possibly looking at a peak soon within the next couple of weeks, and then maybe we see a resumption of getting back to normalcy 2 to 4 weeks after that. Again, that's pretty aggressive. That's just my opinion, but that's the metric I look at. The other thing that's talked about is, is this thing sensitive to warmer weather? And so what we want to look at is Louisiana, Florida, and even Brazil. Although they are heading into their fall, it's still warm there. You still have daytime summer temperatures. So when we look at the updates link, all right, so we'll look at Brazil, and then we'll look at the states. So Brazil, they these numbers are going up. New cases. This was down in the single and double digits a couple of weeks ago. Now they're in triple digits. So when we click on Brazil, what do we see? And we're starting to see that growth rate steady right now. This is where I want to see if heat and all that stuff is really a factor. This should flatten out. Okay, so I think there's a lot of things that are just remains to be seen with this virus. It's a new bug, and so this is kind of what I'm looking at. Hopefully we see a marked difference in warmer areas where it's not as bad. But this is kind of one of those things where there's a lot of theories out there. I just look at the data coming in, and it's as simple as that. Louisiana, if we look at Louisiana, they're up to 4,485 new cases. So that's something that I've been looking at, and I haven't seen yet a slowdown. If we look at Florida too, 5,704 plus 754 new cases. So, this is what I'm looking at as far as that warmer weather data, because if that warmer weather doesn't affect this bug, then those hopes of summertime slowing this thing down or warm weather in general just killing this bug aren't going to be realized. So, and that's another problem, and potentially pushing this lockdown stuff further. Really comes down to how long this lockdown is going to go. And so this is the key stuff that I'm looking at. How is it behaving in warmer weather? Is our case factor greater than 1 each day? And if it is, then the longer that stays like that, the longer we're looking at least a month out from before getting back, and probably longer. There's so many estimates out there running around. It's hard to say, but at this point, based on what I've seen, it seems like we probably won't be getting back to normalcy until sometime in May. And that, I think, is if we start seeing some statistical flattening in the month of April. So it's really day by day, week by week right now. But the longer this doesn't slow down and we keep these parabolic values going up, that's going to put more pressure on the stock market to be going back down. Just in recessionary starts, we have never seen where we drop 30% and then V recover right back up. Both last 2 recessions, we've had multiple 20% drop or 20% rallies that then were followed by subsequent drops. So you generally see 3 pushes down. So this is push 1, and then you'd have 2 subsequent pushes down typically. Now, just because it happened the last 2 times doesn't mean it has to exactly play out like that, but would be very odd that this was a one and done move here. And so typically we see a dead cat bounce. That's the formation we're in right now. So this rolling over here, that's going to be real key to see what happens here. We start taking out some of these levels here, especially if we start going south of 2400. I think we could potentially see some acceleration. So essentially a level, bringing up the fibs, this is what I want to look at. And again, we're going over this because this market is going to weigh on Bitcoin until Bitcoin decouples. That will happen, but we're just not there yet. So 2404 is halfway from this bottom move up. So we see that get tested and that breaks. That's probably going to get the market real nervous. Okay, so that's a level that I'm going to look at how things react there. We could pull back to the 618. That's true, but I think getting a lot of the larger analysis, they'll look at this and this halfway point, and if we go south of that, that's going to get the bulls pretty nervous, and that could accelerate to the downside. And once the sells start to go, as you can see with this market, it has no problem hitting the accelerator to the downside. So that's the risk right now. And I think right now you have to treat this as a dead cat bounce off of a large market drop and look for that to roll over. So still in the play. If we do push up to 2,700 and actually move further up into that, I will reevaluate this. But right now, the odds and the statistics say that this move up and then rolling over is probably what's going to happen. So we'll keep an eye on Bitcoin, keep an eye on the correlation, keep an eye on the virus statistics, and we'll revisit this topic and see if we can get a little bit better idea of how this thing's going to come together as far as getting back to work. But bottom line, do not see a reduction, do not see a flattening. Best case scenarios, I think, are going to be toward the end of May. And that really depends on the data coming in over the next couple of weeks. All right, guys, so there you have it. That's what I look at. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you guys. Please post them below. Again, my opinion only, what I'm looking at and how I interpret the data. So I hope that helps. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe. Really helps out the channel. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.
Trade Genius.